Well, it's an Indian way of fishing that I'd like to meet the Indian years ago who thought this way, but they used their dugout canoes closer to the beach. And if you look out here, you'll see leads that we've got on this side, and there's a lead on the other side, and the Indians just cut those leads in the big bull kelp here and at Point Roberts and out in the San Juan Islands. This is the only place that this is done in the world. And the Indians did it here until we came, and then the fish traps were put in and displaced the reef nets. The last year the Indians reef netted here at Lummi Island was 1898, and then the traps displaced them, and when the traps were outlawed in 1933, I believe it was, then white man came and started putting in the reef nets with the Indians' help. And I know for years there were when I was younger, a lot of Lummi natives particularly came over and were fishermen here. But anyway, now we have, as I say, the leads out here, and every one of these white buoys along here, there's a rope that goes down. And here at the boat, the ropes that go down are shorter length than the ropes out there. So actually, we build a false reef. We've got a lead here and a lead there, and underneath the water going across, which you can't see right now. But there are, every 6 feet from here out, there's a rope that goes across the bottom. And again, starting shallow here and working deeper and deeper and deeper. And the fish come in between those two, we call them head buoys out there. Holding them in place are a 6-ton anchor on each side is holding us in place here. As you notice, the tide is running. You see the water going by, and we fish on an incoming tide, because between these boats there's a 50 feet by 50 foot net that's put between here. The front is down about 21 feet, and the back, when we're fishing, is actually up at the top of the water. And the water we sew the net on the rope so that as the water goes through, it makes like a windsock, only in the water. So as the fish come in, and right out here, 30 feet in front of the boat, the reef actually hits the highest point, about 18 feet of water. And then it drops down to the front of the boat here about 21 feet. So as the fish come in, they think that they're being led by a reef, in which they are. They're on a reef, but they come over the top of it, and then they go down thinking they're going in off the reef, and in effect they're going into a net. And then we bring the front of the net up, and we bring the sides of the net up, and we have the fish confined in a, you might say, 50 by 50 square. That all used to be done by hand. I can remember as a kid, they still pull this up with a pulley down on the net and pulling up by hand, and then somebody thought of a hand crank, and now we do it with electric winches. So evolution of this particular industry in that aspect. But you notice in these ropes down here, you'll see little blue ribbons. Well, we put plastic in there now. When I was a kid and fishing, we would use the long grass that you see above the high tide mark at Birch Bay or various other tall green grass. We'd go cut that, pick it, and every 6 feet we would stick it into the rope. Well, somebody along the way thought, oh, I wonder if plastic would work. Well, plastic works just as well. So some people have green plastic and some people have blue, and there's at least one person out here has white plastic, and it all works the same. So it's kind of an exciting way of fishing, as you get to see the fish. If a school of fish comes in, I don't know if this lens would pick it up, but this stage of the tide, meaning the tide comes in for about 8 hours. The fish aren't here for about the first 4 hours, and where they are, I have no idea. But it's about the last 4 hours of the tide, before the tide gets high and stops, that the fish are here. And sometimes they come one school right after the other. We're hauling very rapidly, and other times we sit here and wondering what happened and where are they. So basically, reef netting is quite simple, but yet quite complex when you think of all the aspects. This year we haven't had an opportunity to fish one day yet, so, and we may not get an opportunity. There may not be the abundance of fish that will allow us to have a fishery. Oh yes, you'll see kelp hanging on our leads over there, and some here too. As we're out here and the tide is running, then there's kelp that goes by that gets ripped loose in storms and various other things. It catches on our leads, and we have to clean them off every once in a while. But we haven't been out. Like I say, our boats have been sitting here in the water for almost a month now, and we have, in fact, they have been sitting here a month, and we haven't had an opportunity to fish yet. Sockeye salmon, the red salmon, that's the one that gives us the most money. That's the fish that are around now. This being an odd year, 2005. There's a large run of pink salmon that will be here this year, but the value of them, sockeye salmon gives us about $1 a pound. We can get from that, $1 a pound, maybe a little bit more this year, they thought. Didn't make any difference if we don't catch any, but pink salmon, the last 2 years ago when the pink salmon were here, they were offering us 5 cents a pound. And I refused to fish them because cat food's cheaper than that. So we never fished them. We fished one day and gave the fish away to the people on the beach. We gave 500 and some fish away one day. I came out here with my dad when I was 4 years old, the first time I can remember being out here. There used to be 75 of these locations here in 9 different rows, and now we're down to 8 locations, and one person didn't set this year, so there's 7 locations set this year. And here at Lummi and out on Lopez Island there's 2, and I think there's 1 on Shaw Island. Or at one time there were 106 locations throughout the San Juan Islands and Cherry Point, where the refineries are. There used to be 5 or 6 gears there, several gears at Point Roberts, but now we're down to a handful. We have a live well back here. The nets are pulled up now, but as we catch our fish, they go into a live well and they're swimming there, and we can separate our fish so that the species that we're not after, we can turn loose. Like for example, right now, we can't catch a Chinook or spring salmon. We can catch them, but they won't let us keep them, so we have to turn all those loose. Last year, or year before, my grandson is on the other side here now. He was looking. We were out and we caught 12 in one haul, and all we did was look at them. We couldn't bring them aboard. We had to turn them loose. He was excited, wanted to bring them in the boat so you could look at them, but things have changed. Our agreement with Canada, these fish that we're catching here, or attempting to catch, are headed for the Fraser River in Canada. We're intercepting them in American waters, and there's been some contention over the years as to why should we be catching their fish, but there's a reason, there's a historic reason why we should be catching them. In 1913, when they were building one of the railroads down the Fraser River Canyon, the Canadians themselves blasted the side of a mountain into the Fraser River and blocked it off, and the fish runs were being decimated. And so our technology and money and Canadian money put with it went up there and put fishways around there, and at that time that was in the 30s, the 1930s, there was an agreement between the two countries that we would share evenly the fish that returned to the Fraser River. Everything went fine when there wasn't large runs coming back, but then as the runs became larger, the Canadians became more nationalistic, and they wondered why we had to have anything to do with their river. So some people in the high places in government negotiated a new treaty which gave us a lot less. Of every 100 fish that was swimming out here in the water that could be caught over and above what was necessary for escapement or spawning purposes, the Canadian fishermen got to chase 50 of them, and we got to chase 50 of them, meaning American fishermen. That has been changed now, so out of every 100 fish that are here that can be caught, we only get to chase 16 of them, while the Canadians get to chase the rest. And since the original treaty in the 30s was signed, we also have the Bolt decision, which divided the American catch between the natives and the non-natives. So we white fishermen, or non-treaty fishermen, so to speak, we only get to chase now 5.5 of those 16, because the rest have been given by our government to the treaty fishermen. So when you get down to chasing 5 out of 100 originally, or excuse me, 5 out of the 50 that we were given, that doesn't leave much for we, the reef netters and the gill netters and the purse seiners, which have to divide those up. So that's how the fishing industry has gone here in Puget Sound. It's become a sport fishery rather than a commercial fishery almost. Sport meaning we put the boats in and have fun coming out here, but we don't usually catch too many fish. This is Lego Bay, and the waters are shallow, fairly shallow here. 65 feet here where we fish, 65, 66 feet. And the fish come in from Rosario Straits, or the Strait of Rosario, which is down here, or Bellingham Channel, which you can't see, which is off to the left. They come in on the tide and they hit the side of Lummi, so to speak, and kind of are led down here. So this is kind of a natural, the side of Lummi Island is kind of a natural lead for them. The most successful fish trap in Puget Sound was right where these reef nets are located now. Row 2, this is what we call row 2 of the reef nets. Behind us is row 1. And on the point behind us used to be the Carlisle Fish Cannery. But the fish trap that was right here in this location from before 1900 to 1933, the fish trap that was located here was the best fish trap in Puget Sound. And there were hundreds of fish traps located throughout the Puget Sound area. So it's kind of a natural lead here for the salmon. But of late, with the water conditions and the El Nino situations, warm water in the ocean, upwelling and various other things, a lot of these fish coming home now have not chosen to come through the Strait of Juan de Fuca and then the Strait of Georgia, or Strait of Rosario Strait, and coming in here. They've gone around the north end of Vancouver Island. They come back to the Fraser River and don't even touch American waters except on the northern tip of Vancouver Island in Alaska. So they bypass us completely. That's what happened last year. They told us we might get 1 day of fishing last year, and we got to fish 13 days because there were no fish here. To catch our quota, they gave us day after day of fishing. 4 of those days we never caught a fish. So when they take what we call the northern route and come back, we don't even get to see them here. There's one fish right down here now. Just one. It took off. They don't always come in either. This isn't a trap. The fish can come down and they can turn, and quite often they do. They come down and they don't want to go into the net. They turn and go back out, wave their tails at us and say goodbye. But the fish have to come back and come into where the net area is here before we can catch them. We need to get a couple of pipe clamps that are going to be the right size for around that rest.